Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Friday Night Live. As we dissect everything from last night, try and come up with some answers and preview. Look forward to maybe Kilmarnock on Sunday. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm joined by our regular Davie. How are you, mate? You well?
I'm well. Yes, I'm physically well. I'm sick to the back teeth of watching Rangers, but I'm physically well. Thank you very much.
And delighted to be joined this evening by our new podcaster, Amrit. Amrit goes everywhere to watch Rangers home and away. Was in the away end last night, unfortunately, mate. How are you? Are you well?
I'm well, yes, Stevie. I'm very excited to be part of the team and looking forward to tonight's pod. So thank you for having me.
Great of you to be here, mate. Amrit as well will bring a wee bit of positivity because he is a positive guy and we need all the positivity we can get. Amrit, you were there last night. I'll start with you. How did you feel coming away from the stadium and watching that performance last night?
As you said, Stevie, I am a positive leaning Rangers fan. I do have that optimistic disposition when it comes to Rangers, but it's really incredibly difficult to continually try and bring that positive energy to everything you do with Rangers when they're not really giving us much to attach hope to. You're looking at that team yesterday and you're willing them and you want them to fight and to grow and to try and show us that they do care as much as we do, to make as much effort on the pitch as we make in the stands and in our lives when we contribute so much time and energy to Rangers. And you feel as if they're not really giving us that. I think if you look at talent and you park that to one side and you look at it based on effort alone, for me, you can bridge the gap in talent with effort. And effort doesn't cost anything. I think you've made this point before, Stevie, that we should be first to every ball. We should be heading every ball. We should be throwing ourselves into tackles. We should be chasing back, tracking back, sprinting out to close people, not just jogging out to get there. But our guys aren't doing that. You don't need talent for that. You need effort, you need fight, you need grit. And that's the basics of the game. And we're getting them wrong. We were second to everything. In every single department yesterday, we were second best. There was no area of the game where you could say we got the better of them. We just didn't. And that's a really, really difficult thing to accept with Rangers, because I think if we try, then we bridge that gap in talent, and we couldn't do that yesterday.
Yeah, lack of effort, Amrit. I think you're spot on. Was the most horrifying thing to watch, Davie. We talk about it consistently. Unfortunately, on this show, there isn't an end to this, unfortunately. What were your thoughts on last night, mate?
I'm going to struggle to be as positive as Amrit. I'll tell you that right now. I'd love to say I was angry. I'd love to say I was disappointed. I'd love to say that I could see something to be positive about. But to be quite honest with you, I'm just totally disgusted with them as it stands right now. I'm not just blaming the players, although I think they have to take an awful lot of it, because, as Amrit has just said, I think their level of commitment and effort to the shirt that they're wearing is almost non-existent. But I'm always going to go back to the summer we've just gone through, and I think it's that summer's going to cost us for quite a long time to come. We have recruited a team in inverted commas that was entirely recruited on the basis of potential, on the basis of future transfer fees, and the basis of young guys who couldn't make it in the Premiership, but maybe they'll make it up here. We didn't build a team. We just brought all these individuals in and threw them in and paid absolutely no attention to things like what mentality do they have, how resilient are they, have they got will to win, are there any leaders in there? We didn't bother a shot with any of that stuff. And do you know what? No winning team ever wins without those ingredients, and we just don't have them. And I feel so sorry for the new head coach. And I know we're going to touch on him later on, but if he didn't realise the size of job he's got, then he saw it in his own eyes last night. I personally, and you know how far back I go, I think I'm currently sitting watching the worst top flight Rangers team of my Rangers supporting life, and I go back to the late 1960s, and it really pains me to say that. I'll try and be positive later on, But for the moment, I think realism has to trump positivity. And the realism that is staring us right in the face is we have got an absolutely awful team.
Yeah, and I would love to say you were wrong. I would love to say that that's not the case, but sadly, on evidence, it is. They're strong words from you, Davie, because I know you. You're very considered. You're very thoughtful. You are a historian of this football club. You know everything about it. We don't let you play the half-time quiz at Ibrox because you're too good at it. And for you to come out with some of them words is really quite interesting. Amrit, what was your reaction to the manager last night coming over to the fans, not only at the start, but at the end when he tried to speak to them? He's got a hell of a job, but at least he's trying to communicate. He's trying to bond with the support. I think there's if he didn't know before, he certainly knows now the task that's ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. You saw that video that I sent you last night, that when the players came over, the majority of the way end were booing the players. Now, I'm not here to judge anybody. They pay their money. They can react and respond in how they would wish to respond. And I understand it's a emotionally driven environment. I didn't boo. That doesn't make me better than anyone. I just chose not to. But as we were booing them, or as the group were booing them, the players turned around. Danny Rule walked towards the fans on his own. Now, that's a long, lonely walk from the halfway line to over where we were. And he walked over and he went straight to the front of the away end, and he climbed over the barriers and over the advertising boards and literally went to touching distance, was shaking people's hands, was speaking to them. And you could see the emotion on the guy's face. And we can't judge Danny Rule just yet because he hasn't had enough time. But for a man to do that in that environment, under those circumstances, for me, he has my utmost respect for that action. And he has my admiration, because that's not an easy thing to do, Stevie. The easy job would have been to walk up that tunnel and say, I'm not going over there. But he didn't. He did the hard thing, which was come over. And I think the fans responded well to that. We responded to the fact that he's tried to do the gentlemanly thing. He's tried to come over and show the fans that it actually means something to him as well. That it's not just, oh, I don't care, I'm going up the road, I've got a flight to get. He felt our pain and our suffering, and I think he wanted to almost soothe our wounds by saying, I understand, and I know this isn't going to be a quick fix, and I wish I could just have a magic wand and make it all okay, but I can't. But I want you to know and to feel that I'm invested, I'm committed, and I want this to work. And that's what it felt like he was trying to do, to create a bond with the fans, which is something that's been lacking for many, many a year. I think that cohesion between the manager and the fans and the players, that has been missing. And it feels like this guy's committed to wanting to do that. And I really hope I'm right.
I think we all hope you're right, Amrit, that's for sure. Davie, 36-year-old man, a couple of days into the job, shouldn't have to front up to the fans at the airport like he did last night and in the stadium. It takes balls to do it. He certainly showed that. But as a young man like that, I think he deserves all the credit. But my position is that he shouldn't have to address the fans like that at the airport. Not because the fans are wrong. I don't mean that. I don't mean from the fans' point of view. I mean there's senior figures in this football club who should be talking directly to the root and branch supporters. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that disparagingly. I mean the guys that pay that money last night. The real answer should come from Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. I'm not asking them to march over to the away end. In an airport, by the way, when they were all together, all in the same circles, they let Danny Rule go and do that. They let him front up to the support while they never. And that, for me, isn't right, Davie.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think our young head coach has shown a level of leadership already that a lot of people maybe doubted before we took him on. But people did say about he's only 36, he's never been at a big club and stuff before as a head coach. I think he is showing he's fronting up, he's taking responsibility, he's connecting to the support. But let's be honest, if Thelwell or Stewart tried to go over and calm the support last night, all they would have got was just dogs abuse, quite rightly too. It's too late for them to try and build a bridge with us. They're short, they're gone. I don't see any way back for any of the two of them with the support, the way things stand. When it comes to Danny Rule and the job that he's got in front of him, I think that I'm going to talk history again. You know me. I can think of 3 managers that inherited an absolute shit show in terms of what was in the park in the past. Graham Souness came in, got lots of money, right enough. He inherited a team that was 5th, but he still had some good players in it, and it was during the summer, so he could rebuild. Walter Smith took over from Paul Le Guen, which was a shit show as well, but that was in January, and he was able to bring players in straight away to change things round. And then there was Gerrard, who inherited a team from Caixinha and Graham Murty, which was full of dross. But again, it was in the summer, and again he could rebuild it himself. It's only October. This rebuild under Danny Rule was different in the fact that he can't do anything with that squad for a couple of months, and I think that's the biggest challenge that he's currently got, because what Thelwell and Russell Martin have left him is the worst hospital pass I've ever seen for a Rangers manager. The guy has started off doing all the right things off the park, but the big head scratcher for him will be what he's going to do on it, because the 3 years are probably going to talk about later on what options he has in the next few games. But no matter what option I see, I still see too many inferior players going out in that park on Sunday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would agree. Kenny and I spoke a lot about this with Chris on Wednesday. Kenny and I had a lot to say last night. There was a reason that I put a warning on the podcast last night. 1, because YouTube demands that you do that when you swear a lot, and 2, because we did swear a lot. And unfortunately, it was passionate, it was emotional, but we had just watched that. Amrit, we had quite a say. Where do you stand now? Having been at all the games, having seen it all right in front of you, recruitment in the summer has led us here. Difficult question, but how do you think that reflects to where we are now? And what I mean by that is it as bad as what we are seeing?
I think it is. I think that's the reality. And Davie made the point earlier that realism has to trump optimism. And the realism is that these guys aren't giving us anything to hang our hat on. I think as Rangers fans, we're not stupid. Rangers fans know football. They know good players. They know bad players. And they're not scared to share their opinions. Neither should they be. And I think with these players, what we found is that for me, you'd like to see incremental, measured, continual improvements in the players and in the system, and seeing them getting gradually better from game to game, week to week. We haven't seen any of that this season with any of them. If anything, there's not progression, there's regression. And when you're not seeing any improvement, people are saying to me, "Oh, I think we've got a good squad. I think we've got talent." Well, I'm afraid we've not seen it. We haven't certainly seen it consistently. We've seen flashes of it, but no consistency whatsoever in the team. And I think you can make excuses and say, "Oh, it was Russell Martin, it was this, it was that." These guys are professional players. They are athletes. They have been through multiple systems in multiple clubs. And at some point, there has to be an accountability here for the way that they're performing. You can't just keep outsourcing responsibility and accountability. I think they really need to get their act together. I think they need to start working for each other. I don't believe that any of them have earned the right to call themselves Rangers players. Rangers players are with spirit, with fight, with heart. These players haven't displayed any of that. Rangers players are the ones that will go down swinging when the back's against the wall. They'll pull something out of the fire to say, "Yes, I'm a Rangers player." They'll say to their opposition, "Do your worst, for I shall do mine." These are the kind of heroes and warriors that this club was built on. And you can't see any of that, not even a flicker, not even a glimmer of hope in any of these players. And that's a really, really sad thing. As Davie said earlier on, these are mid-level championship players that really, I think, our standards are too much. Not our expectations, but our standards as a club are too much for a lot of these guys. And I'm not surprised we are where we are when the recruitment has been so poor. It really has been. I think we've overpaid for underperforming players. I don't think that their price tag reflects their capabilities or their abilities in any way, shape or form. Gasman has been a small glimmer of hope, But any team knows now, nullify Gasman and you nullify Rangers. They know that. They know that's where the danger's coming from. So I'm not surprised, yes, Stevie, in answer to your question, that we are where we are. But we're going to have to sleepwalk through these next games to get to January in the hope that we get a couple of players in to then get us to the summer and do some business then. But we are stuck with what we have. And if we're talking solutions, we've got to do what we can with these players. There is no alternative now. We're stuck with them. And that's a really frightening reality, but it is where we are.
A couple of comments I want to bring up, Davie, because they are difficult. And by the way, I thought you spoke really well there. I think you summed it up quite nicely. Blue Nose Bob says mid-level journeyman, and I think this is really key as well. James says they've overestimated the English Championship. Here's a few things, and I'll keep this very quick. People have heard me far too much. The situation at left back is horrific. They've signed a young boy who is not youth team level. For Rangers, if he was in our youth team, we would have played him a couple of times and then said he needs to go out on loan. I agreed with Kenny when he said it last night. He looks startlingly miles out his depth. We've sold 3 left backs to leave ourselves with 1, which I think is horrendous mismanagement. The centre-back positions, we've signed promising young defenders, but the truth of it is that neither of our centre-backs would get near our last championship-winning team, which was a centre-back foursome of Goldson, Balogun, Hilander, Edmondson and Simpson, and none of them would get close to them, and that's quite startlingly worrying. Your midfield, Joe Rothwell is a shadow of the player that we've seen for Leeds last year. We need to figure out why that is. And then you look at Tello Asgard. Tello Asgard reminds me a lot of a Joe Aribo type who came in, and Joe Aribo needed, 2 seasons. There was touches of class, but he never played central. He played out in the wing, and, he was able to feed off of a midfield that had Kamara, Davis, Ryan Jack bossing it every single week, and you had Kent on one side, Morelos on the other. So when Joe Aribo was slightly off it, he could get carried somewhat, Davie, but we have young guys in there that they put in and suddenly expected to be superstars, and they can't be the front line. Chermiti, we will not discuss that. We said so much about him last night. Ali said there's not a lot there with him, which I think is pretty horrendous. When you think about that level of comment, it's absolutely right. But for Ali to say that, and it all goes back to one thing, like Amrit said, it's on, when he talked about recruitment. Davie, why have we got this so wrong? These comments by James in the previous one about the English Championship and everything else, why is it so bad? Why is it so wrong, Davie? I've had my opinion. We've said what I think. What do you think?
I think the comment on the screen, I think, is a pretty accurate one about overestimating the English Championship. I just think that the sporting director we've brought in seems to want to shop in probably the most expensive market in world football. And because it's so expensive, we can't afford to buy the good players from down there because they cost too much money. So what do? We go for the third and fourth choices. When you talk about Aarons, for example, who we brought in, he came from a Premiership club, but he was about the 5th choice right back. He couldn't even get in the reserve team, never mind the first team. That McHoma was the same. He's coming from a Premiership club. It's not just the Championship, but the whole market down there. Unless you can find the Joe Aribos in the lower leagues and polish them up, bring them into the club, surround them with good players, surround them with winners, surround them with people to teach them the right habits, and they will come on. But what we've done is we've just filled the whole squad with these overpaid, overpriced development players. And the other thing about them is the Max Aarons of this world, the McComas of this world, the Gigas of this world, they've all been getting paid a fortune since they were teenagers. I don't know what hunger they have in the game, because they're getting paid God knows how much by these Premiership clubs to sit on the bench every week. We don't have any hunger in the team. We don't have any will to win in the team. How did we get it wrong? We got it wrong because the guy in charge of recruitment has completely misunderstood what a successful Rangers team needs and completely went to the wrong market to go and bring the players in for us. I find that, I know we're trying to not talk about Thelwell too much tonight, but if we give him the money to spend in January, after listening to his press conference the other day about saying he told the world on Tuesday again, we've got a good group of players. We just need a head coach and they can bring it out. He's wrong. He's actually wrong about that. And if he thinks that going back to that same market again and thinking the same way again in January is going to work this time, then we're going to get even worse. So the worst thing that Andrew Kavanagh can do is give Kevin Thelwell a brass farthing to spend in January. He should be nowhere near the recruitment that we decide to do in January, and he should be nowhere near our club, to be quite honest with you.
It's difficult to put up an argument, and I think the issue is that when it becomes as toxic as the levels are now, Amrit, that Davie knows, I know, when Rangers fans make up their mind, when it gets to a certain point, I've only seen it ever change once for a manager. Davie might be able to remember further back. The only time I've ever seen it change was under Alex McLeish. The only players that I've ever seen change it, I've seen Hateley do it. McCoy's was slightly before my time. In recent times, that more younger viewers might see the likes of Borna Barisic change and stuff like that. When people make up their mind on players, it's very difficult to change it. When they make up their mind on the people running the football club, it's more or less impossible. And Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, I don't think you can change that now, Amrit. And the only way to do that would be to have a sustained run of winning games, to completely turn the cycle round. And even then, I think the trust level is, I think it's broken. That's the only way to put it. I don't see them recovering at this football club. Davie said they shouldn't be at the football club. They should be nowhere near. Untenable is in the comments. That's where I am.
Yeah, Stevie, I think you're right. It's not if, it's when with these two. And you're right. Once Rangers fans make up their mind, it is very difficult to get us back on side. You could see the body language in the press conference from Patrick Stewart. That's the CEO of our company. And there's nothing about him. His body language, he didn't seem like he wanted to be there. He didn't look interested. He just looked completely void of any sort of involvement. And a CEO of a company or an organisation should be able to command the energy in a room without even speaking. That should be the strength that these guys have. That guy is obscure. He fades into the background. If he didn't speak, you wouldn't know he was there. That's not a leader of a business or a company or an organisation like Glasgow Rangers. Absolutely not. And Kevin Thelwell, I mean, he's just getting a blank checkbook to go and buy Dross. And he's sticking by them, but they haven't given us any reason to think that that these guys are anything better than average. And the left back situation is a perfect example of that. If you're looking at your team, Stevie, and you're saying, where are the areas of weakness? What areas do we need to invest in? You made the point, sell 3, buy 1. The one you've bought as a 19-year-old. And I don't think it's fair to single out Magoma, because he should never have been put in the position where he has the responsibility of being our first choice left back at 19 years old. This guy should have been drip fed into the team over time, 20 minutes here, half an hour there, every couple of games. We shouldn't be putting this weight of responsibility on a 19-year-old. How can you expect any other outcome than the one we've got, which is that he's not good enough? Because we knew that. So you're looking at that as recruitment and you're thinking, well, if we can see it as fans, why in the world were these areas not strengthened up over the summer? Why were we focusing on other areas of the park, spending 10 million on Chermiti, and we get back to him over and over again? We should have just got Cherny and that would have been it. We've lost Dessers, we lost Igaman, we lost Cherny. Between the three of them, what, 50 odd goals a season, maybe 15, 20, 30 assists, whatever it is. I don't know the stats, but that's roughly where we would be. And we replaced them with Chermiti, Miovski, Danilo's still there. It makes no sense. We're talking about building a team for the future, and it doesn't happen in one window. But you've got to do it gradually, and you've got to make sure you're strengthening in the right areas. So, and he hasn't done that. And as a sporting director, I'm sorry, but you have failed to fulfil the duties with which you've been entrusted. That is your job. You've not done it. In any other business or organisation, if you don't do what you're employed to do, you go. And this guy still seems to sit there like he's bulletproof. So it's beyond me, Stevie. It really is.
Yeah, again, I would love to put a relevant argument back, but I think you sum up with the whole support, or the majority. We can't speak for everyone, but there's certainly a strength of support for that statement. Davie, Ali McCoy said, I keep going on about the recruitment, but the recruitment has been absolutely hopeless. You can name individuals, but it's probably not worth doing that. But you look at collectively in the past, however many years it has been shocking. I'm looking at the boys that left in the summer. You've got rid of Dessers, who wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but he scores 20 plus goals. You've got rid of Tierney, Hamza, who scores 2 goals for Lille last night. You've lost the best part of 60, 65 goals out your team, and you've not replaced them. You brought a big young lad in there, Yusuf. God help him. I certainly hope he goes on to score 100 goals for Rangers, but he just looks miles off it. It's a shame for him actually watching it. He played 300 odd minutes for Everton in 2 years, and you pay 8 million for him. Holy moly, guacamole. That's remarkable. Now, Coisty obviously will put it his own way. When you break it down and look at the key words in there, absolutely hopeless, shocking, and he's talking about Tierney, miles off it. It's a shame for him actually watching it. Remarkable. These are strong words for a guy that's doing co-coms, that has to rein it in. He can't speak like me and Kenny did last night, that's for sure. But last bit on this, Davey, we don't want to keep giving people the same conversation. So I'm eager to move on slightly, but you can't argue with Ali. And he's probably said it in a diplomatic way to where everybody else is saying it in pubs, all in pubs and clubs and meeting their pals all along the country, that regardless of what happened McCoy's before, everything else, Ali's our man, our biggest fan, right? Socially out there and everything else. On the airwaves, he's having to rein it in, but he nails them, and you can't argue with it.
I certainly wouldn't argue with him. The long and the short of it is we have the two ends of the team. The defensive end of the team can't defend, and the attacking end of the team can't score. So, and it's actually as straightforward as that. The defence gets most of the attention and criticism, and I can understand exactly why with some of the goals that they give away and the lack of clean sheets that they've got. But I said to you guys last night, I genuinely think that we have got as big a problem at the other end. And Amrit alluded to it there about the number of goals that's come out of the team. I don't see any prospect of Rangers going and scoring quite a few goals in a game. I think we've played 8 league games so far. We've scored 8 goals. That's absolutely hopeless. If I go back to last season, when Barry Ferguson was there, we were conceding goals right, left and centre, but look at the number that we scored. We kept winning 3-2s and 4-3s and 4-2s and things like that. There's no way this Rangers team's going to do that. We do not have goals in it. And if you don't have goals in the team, the one thing you need is a really solid defence behind you so that one goal makes a difference. We've not got that either. McCoy's absolutely right. It's all down to recruitment, yes. But it's how we fix it. I'm interested in how we fix it. We could talk all day about how unsuited players. I actually joked to my son earlier on that I would actually have Robin Proper back in the defence. That's how bad things are. We talked all last season about how unsuited he was to Rangers and how he wasn't a good enough defender. I tell you, he would actually improve that back four. That's how bad we are. But we are what we are. Amrit's just talked about it. We've got two months before we can do anything about it. Yes, the team's rubbish. Yes, the attack's rubbish. Yes, the defence is rubbish. So what we're going to do to get results between now and January? Because if we don't get results between now and January, the Scottish Cup's going to be all that's left.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Scottish Cup is a mile away from this team. Couple of thank yous just before we go on. Kimberly Neal gifted 10 Four Lads of Dream Rangers podcast memberships. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you to Stevie T, who became a new YouTube member as well. You can become a member. I'm going to point the wrong way, I bet you. I did it. It's up there. See if you go over that way, you can scan the QR code and help the podcast grow. The reaction to you guys, by the way, is incredible. So thank you so much, everybody that supports and watches. Amrit, let's park all that. We have to try and come up with solutions. We have to try and give answers. I'm keen to think you had a long journey home, and I'm sure, like most of us, you were going over that in your head, thinking, what can we change? How can we make this better? What would you do? We're not football managers, we're football fans. But how would you, what can Danny Rule do to fix that? How would you change formation? Would you put in certain players? And the good thing about this, Amrit, is there's no wrong answer here, because see, when you play as badly as we have, anybody's got the right to give an opinion, and anybody's got the right to stake a claim in that team. So I have my own opinions, and by the way, I'm clutching as much as anybody else might be. I'm keen to think, or keen to ask you how you would change that.
Right, Stevie. Good. Okay, so here we go. Positive, optimistic, Amrit. I've had my rant. That's all over now. Let's get down to finding a solution. I think if I'm Danny Rule, you accept that you have the players you have. That's the first thing you do. I think we accept that perhaps they're not as good as you would like them to be. And for me, I would say the first thing that I would do if I was Danny Rule, I would say, okay, maybe we can't compete technically, maybe we're not as good, maybe we're not as gifted or as talented, but let's make this team difficult to beat. Let's reduce them back to zero, get them back down to a level, take away their egos and take away all the chip on the shoulder, the arrogance, take all that away and start building them up and say, now that we've reset you and you're at zero, now we're going to get to work. And build them up in such a way that says that we'll set up so that no team that plays us will outwork us. They might be better, they might be more talented, they might be better with the ball, might be better off the ball, but we can promise and guarantee that no team will outwork Rangers. That we'll be first to every ball, we'll throw ourselves into tackles, we'll put ourselves about, we'll make sure that we run so much that our lungs are burning at the end of 90 minutes, and we know that we'll give everything. And if we still lose, then we can accept that. That's okay, but as long as we've given everything. So I would say just be committed to, in the first instance, that no team will outwork us. And that means we get fitter, we get faster, we get stronger. And we put that effort in. And if we can build that type of culture in our team, then we can start to work on the other things. But we need to get the basics right, which is a work rate and a work ethic in this team, and that players are holding each other accountable. Because if you look last night, Stevie, the interesting thing is, I'm not Tav bashing before anybody comes up in the comments, but Tav came out and said that he was raging, he was disappointed, he wasn't happy with the response of the players on the pitch. That's fine, Tav. But the problem is when he communicates that to his teammates, they're all turning around and saying, well, Tav, you're just as bad as us. What have you done that's any different to anybody else? And they're right and they're justified in that. But if we can develop a culture where everybody's working hard and then they pick out the man that's not working hard, all of a sudden you're being held to account by your peers and by your colleagues. And that's very different from being held to account by fans, because they can just brush that off. You can't brush off your teammates holding you to account, because you're in the same team with them every single day. You've got to be around them all the time. So I think that's the first solution. I think we need to get players like Dujon Sterling back into the team. I think he needs to come back in when he's fit. That would be great if he could stay fit as well. A bit of physical presence. I would like to see more Scottish players coming back into the team, if I'm honest. I don't know what Finlay Curtis needs to do to get back in that team, but the players that we've selected, or that Russell Martin selected and that we selected last night, haven't done it. So I think you throw people like Curtis in. I'd like to see Lyle Cameron back in the team, get that work rate going. These guys will give you 100%. You know that. All the time, without doubt, they will run and chase and they will hunt that ball like their life depends on it. And I think we need that. We need a bit of grit in the middle of the park. Young Finlay Curtis will be so grateful for the opportunity. He'll give you 100%. We've already seen the impact he can have coming off the bench. He can't be any worse than what we've got just now. So I think we start introducing some of these fringe players and see what they can do. Get Badge Rami back in the team. Let's see, give him a run of 1 or 2 games and see how he goes. Drop Asgard for a wee bit. Let him have a breather. Get Ant-Man on the bench and put Curtis in there. Let's see. Let's move some things around, move some pieces around and see if it has an effect. We've got to try something, because this is what we've got. And we do have a squad. So let's use the squad. Let's use the guy. This Fernandez, is he injured? Is he not injured? He was 3.5 million. Get him on the park. Enciala. I mean, first of all, I don't know why we bought Fernandez and not played him when we had Enciala there. What can Fernandez do that Enciala couldn't? Okay, he had a couple of bad games, but he can play at left back. He can play in the middle. I think he's strong. He's good with the ball at his feet. I think get him in the team. Give him a run. let's drop Suter for a wee while, because at the moment it seems like all we're ever doing is finding a partner for Suter. Oh, we'll put Suter on the left. Oh, we'll put him on the right. We'll put Cornelius on the left and we'll play Suter on the right because he's better there. All right, we'll play Jigga on the left last night and then we'll play Suter on the right. So it's almost like we're trying to find a space for Suter. Let's just drop him for a couple of games and say, well, look, Soapy, you've got a couple of mistakes in you. So we're going to bring in Fernandez or we're going to bring in Enciala. I think you start to mix it up a bit. I'm not saying that we crucify players for their performances thus far, but I think communicating that there are consequences to performing badly, and then you bring in these fringe players and give them an opportunity to prove that they can contribute to this team. And I think that's part of the solution.
Mate, well done. Honestly, that was good. I'll tell you what, Kevin Thelwell can't spot a player to bite on myself in the arse, but I can spot a podcaster, Amrit. You're going to be good, mate. Really well said. Love the passion. Really, really do. Davie, I like a lot of what Amrit says, and a lot of what I've been clutching at today, by the way, has been similar. A couple of things. I would go to 3 at the back. I'm not saying it's going to work. Really, I'm not, and I'm not an expert. I am very much a football fan like everybody else, but 3 at the back, and I would put Fernandez in there. And the reason I would do it is because we were told when we signed him, and from what we've seen, big, powerful defender in the air, will tackle everything. Not good on the ball, I understand that. Get him in the centre of defence, because then if you get a ball in like that for the second goal last night, he might be able to bullet it away. He might be able to put his body on the line. Get him in there at centre back. I'm not saying, genuinely, I'm not saying that it's going to fix everything. But you're asking me for solutions. That's one of them. The other is I would be going with the midfield of last season of Barron, Diamande, Raskin, which at times did quite well. And I think the midfield's a major problem. By the way, I thought Raskin was horrendous last night. Really well off it. And I love the wee man. I really, really do. But I think even he'll tell you he was miles off it. Joe Rothwell is a shadow of the team player that he was. Even as much as I like him and I want him to do well, and at moments I see him gliding, and then there's just nothing there. So genuinely, I think that needs to change. Would you get in Lyle Cameron? Yes, I think you would. Finlay Curtis. They all come into the reckoning for me, Davie. It's not a magic wand situation. It's not a quick fix. Nobody's saying it's absolutely going to work and it's a wonderful solution. But what I'm saying is I would love to see Rule change it. And genuinely, I think the fans would follow him and go from there. I even like what Amrit was saying about Suter getting dropped. I've never thought of it that way. I don't necessarily think Suter made mistakes last night for any of the goals, but Suter is culpable as much as anyone. Would you try somebody else in there? We don't have enough leaders. That might, is he a leader? I'm not sure he is a leader. I'm not sure he has a heart to kind of respond to setbacks and things on the pitch. There's loads of questions. I would change the formation. That would be what I do. It doesn't mean it's spot on or it's right. Just an opinion. I've been trying to get a solution in my head all day and I've not come up with one. But there's things I would do genuinely to try and, like Amrit said, move pieces around. Let's make changes. Let's throw it a wee bit out there and see what happens, because the continuation of the same certainly isn't working.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I can follow Amrit's call to arms right enough, because I could have listened to that all night, to be honest with you. I think I've got a sort of basic way of looking at this, in that no matter which pairing that we could play at the back, I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't think we could keep the opposition out. I don't think they're good enough. So I think by default we should go to 3 centre backs just to have an extra defender there. Just because, as Amrit said earlier on, the first thing I think we need to do, and the first thing any team does when a decent manager goes in and they're having bad results and they're conceding too many goals, the first thing any decent manager always does is they stiffens the defence up and tries to make it hard to beat. And I think that's what we need to do. And I think we should, I totally agree with you, I think we should go to 3 centre backs. The problem I've got with that a little bit is because I want to play Cornelius at left back. I think he could be a modern version of Sasa Papac at left back, if you know what I mean. A converted centre half who's actually quite comfortable out the wide bit of the defence. So if you still want a left-sided centre back in the 3, then I think that means Enciala has to come back inside Cornelius. The other 2, I'm kind of with Amrit. I'm fed up watching John Suter.
Sorry,
And
Davie, can I quickly ask you just a wee thing?
Yeah.
Would you try NCL at left back and keep Cornelius then as the experienced
nah,
left?
I think I think I would rather see Cornelius
other
played
way.
left back at Falkirk, didn't he? And I thought he'd done all right there.
He done all right.
I think I'll cut straight to it. Personally, I would play Fernandez, Giga in the middle, and Inciala as my back three. I'd play Cornelius on the left. I'm torn at the right back because for all that I think Tavernier is basically done, and I think his legs are gone. I just don't rate Aarons at all, and I'm struggling no matter which one of the two of them.
He's weak as piss, Davie. That's my biggest issue with him. Mentally weak.
I would almost by default. I'd probably still play Tavernier, even though I kind of know I'll just get pelters for saying it. And the other bit, after saying the defence can't defend, I don't think we've got any centre forward that can lead a line himself. I think Chermiti's got the physical presence, but he can't score goals. Majovski's a run in behind type who can't hold the ball up. And Danilo is a penalty box player who doesn't do much outside the box and can't hold it up either. So I think by default, you go to two up front so that you've got some kind of partnership up there, so that you can combine these strengths that we do have. Now, I don't know what the best pairing would be. I'd actually be tempted to play Curtis beside somebody up there because I think he's a goal scorer.
So, remember, Finlay played in the youth and scored 60 goals over 2 seasons. And played at 9 quite a bit. So sorry to interrupt you, Davie. I apologise about that, but just throwing that wee tidbit in there.
No, I'd be solely tempted to play him beside Majovski maybe, and go for a pairing that both of them have got a goal in them. But in effect, what that does is it leaves you without wingers really. So, but I can't have everything because I'm with you in terms of midfield. We haven't dominated midfield in any game this season, and I'm almost at a point that I'll be questioning whether Raskin should stay in the team as well, because I'm not 100% convinced that we're not going to sell him in January anyway. But I would definitely play Wild Cameron as one of those three, and I think Raskin and Diamandi are probably the other two, if I'm honest. So that would be my team for Sunday. And I know it's not perfect, but I think what it does is it solidifies the back. It puts a bit of aggression and a bit of spirit in the middle, and it puts a couple of guys that can actually score a goal up front. And it also matches Kilmarnock. I think they play the same kind of 5-3-2 formation. And what that turns it into is a lot of duels all over the field. And if you look at our players against their players, we should win more duels than they do. We should give Imoria a chance of winning. But am I convinced that that's the way to go long term? Absolutely not. But I think it's probably the way to go short term so we can limp into the transfer window and do something about it.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to have a discussion where we are talking about solutions, that's for sure. I would put Gassama up with a striker if you're going at 2. Who would he play with? I'm not quite sure, but I would maybe give him, and I'm not comparing the players, but Loudrup used to play up there and they used to just tell Brian he could go wherever he wanted. Now, that was in a different era, different quality of player. I absolutely understand that, and he had somebody to play up with him. But sometimes when Brian played up there, he was allowed to drift wings, he was allowed to float about, he was allowed to play between lines, and Brian was a world-class special player, I know that. Gassama's probably our brightest light, so I would chuck him in there. Amrit, Killie, we know about, they do, as Davie says, play 5-3-2. Stuart Kettlewell has them really organised. Polworth, Kiltie, Watson are the midfielders. They've got Dackers up front, who's a big point man. They'll go long. Anderson plays off him. And then they've lost Finlay at the back, but they've got Robbie Dees, Lewis Mayo, who are quite solid. This is an SPL team who will be difficult to beat. They'll be difficult to break down. And by the way, they'll be difficult to defend against with set pieces, which is why I think Fernandez is important in there. And it's going to be, I would say that they would be playing behind the ball, but they'll, like everybody else now, having watched Rangers, they'll feel that they'll get chances. They'll feel that they can take advantage of set pieces, so they'll try and win them. And we'll need to watch that. And they'll be very well organised, and we don't create much. So we've got to try and go with the passion of the first half in the last week, but make that sustained and go from there.
Yeah, we're going to have to be on it from the start because they'll know that we're wounded. They'll know that we travelled back on Thursday night. Today probably would have been a rest. I think they would train tomorrow. Then we've got a game on Sunday. They've had a far greater amount of time to recover. We get that. That means Danny Rule's had, 2 sessions maybe with the players since he's come in. And so that's not an awful lot. They'll be coming full of confidence. Nobody comes to Ibrox scared anymore. Those days are long gone, unfortunately. So they'll be coming buoyant. I think they'll be up for it. I think they will know that they can go long. They'll know they've got that big Dackers boy up front. You know, he's going to cause some problems. He'll be bullying Suter and all the rest of it. They'll know they'll get in between the lines. If they can get Suter and Tav running back towards our goal, we've got problems. So we really need to focus. That's why I think what both of you said about 3 at the back, I think that might be that, okay, we don't have the quality. Let's just put more numbers in there. Let's just get numbers and try and do it that way. I think that could definitely be a solution, but we need to be on it. If Watson gets on the ball and starts to hurt us, that could cause us problems. So in the midfield, I think Raskin misses Dio when he's not there. And I take Davie's point about Raskin not performing at his highest level, and he hasn't for a couple of games now. But I think when Dio's not in there with him, I think he misses him. So if Dio can come back into that team, if he's not injured, I'm not sure, is he still injured? Is he not? Bring him back in because Rothwell's not the solution in there. And we need to concentrate from the very start. We need to be on it, and we need to be working hard off the ball and making this as difficult as possible for them. And that sounds like we are the away team here, and we're the home team. But I think that's what we've been reduced to now as the Rangers team. We need to just make sure that we're difficult to beat and then almost try and grow into the game, which is ridiculous to think as a Rangers team that that's the strategy that we need to employ at this stage. But I think that's the starting point for us on Sunday.
And by the way, Amrit, on that point about growing into games and becoming more difficult to beat, Walter was a master at doing that sort of thing. We used to go in midweek and take a difficult result in Europe, and then he would go and play on the Saturday and he would load it. And the second spell, if you want to talk about that, McCulloch and things would be in that team. So he would maybe sacrifice, a Charlie Adam, and McCulloch would be in, and you would have a 4 midfielders that were basically a defensive-minded midfield. And then, you had Kenny Miller up there on his own, and we stifled it. And when you go way back to 9 in a row, if there was a difficult defeat, he would go with the tried and tested, the Bombers and stuff like that. Davie will be able to tell you much more. Davie will probably be able to pinpoint the whole team that played the Saturday away to Wraith Rovers after the difficult game in Turin or whatever. But I think there's a lot of merit to what you say there. And that's, by the way, I get it. This is Ibrox and everything else. I absolutely 100% get it. But there's merit, Amrit, to actually digging in, getting the, you can still express yourself, but win the ball, win the game first, and then try and progress and or win the battle first. Sorry, I should have said. Win the battle, win the possession, get some confidence, knock the ball about, and then take it from there. Because at the moment, Stephen has just said painless and weak. It looks like that. So they have to need their way into games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the strategy we need to employ, because whatever we've been doing up till this point hasn't worked. So we need to amend, we need to adapt. I think we need to be quite fluid in our approach. We're going to have to do some things that don't come naturally, that are unfamiliar. But I think you just get 3 centre halves, you make us compact, hard to beat, and maybe we hit them on the break and get a bit of success that way. Because whatever we're doing just now isn't working. We're leaking goals because there's just too many gaps between defenders. There's too many spaces that can be exploited. And make no mistake about it, if there are gaps, Kilmarnock will exploit them. They will not be scared to venture into these areas, to play those questionable balls, the diagonal ball over the top, which has been successful for everybody that's played against Rangers all season, balls down the line, the last questions. And in the set plays, we're really going to have to throw ourselves at them, win those headers, win those duels, because people will know that's where they can really hurt us.
Yeah, Davie, I'm going to let you have the last word on this ahead of Sunday. We will be in the gantry, hopefully for once, enjoying ourselves. We always do, and then the football starts. You're not playing the quiz, just to make that clear again. May get you to read out.
No, I'll be the quiz master.
Do you know what's funny about when Davie does the quiz? You ask him a question, and he gives you like multiple answers, not only to the actual question, but he'll tell you who we played the Saturday before, who we played the weekend after, who scored the goals, what minute it was. It's quite remarkable, Davie. So ahead of Sunday, my man, you can have the last word on Kilmarnock, what Rangers should be doing and what we can expect.
I'm not disagreeing with what Amrit was saying. You talked about Walter. And there'll never be another Walter, but the approach is absolutely what we need to have right now, which is we know we're going to be in for a bit of a battle. So you need to set up to win that battle first. Once you win the battle, we've got players who we can bring on later on to then take advantage of the fact that we've got on top. But we need to get on top first. And I don't think we've got enough of the new recruits who, A, are capable of doing that, and B, I don't think even want to do that. So what we need is put in players who are capable and do want to do it. So that's why your Barons and your Camerons and these guys, I think, are the ones that we should be thinking about for Sunday. I actually quite like your thought about Gassama as a sort of floating play. Remember when Barry played 3-5-2 last year? He played Cherny in a kind of floating role off Dessers. I actually think Gassama might actually be quite good in that role when I think about it. But I'm quite sure Danny Rule's not watching us tonight, so who knows where? Who knows?
It should be. Yeah, absolutely should be. Russell loved this show.
Yeah, not until he might have done it until he started listening to what we were saying about him right now. The last thing I will say is that I'm absolutely convinced that Danny Rule will get an excellent reception on Sunday. I think the crowd will get right behind him, and I think that if there's any negativity coming from the stands on Sunday, it will be A, if we're playing badly towards the players, or B, it'll be towards those above Danny Rule who the fans have had enough of and don't want to see at the club anymore. The head coach has got the hardest job I've seen for a long time as a Rangers manager. He's got his work cut out, but I see no reason why, if we don't approach the game on Sunday the right way, I don't see why we can't beat Kilmarnock. Yes, they're a hard team to beat. Yes, they've got some good players, but they're Kilmarnock. We do need to do the right things. We need to go back to basics. We need to accept the fact we're not a very good team, but we're still Rangers and we still cost 30 million quid. So let's go out and win the game, and me and you can have a vlog that we can actually get a smile on it occasionally.
Oof, that would break the internet if I managed to crack a smile on a match day vlog. I'll tell you that right now. Gentlemen, what a pleasure it's been. Davie, thank you as always, mate.
No, thanks for having us on. And by the way, it's been an absolute pleasure to share Amrit's first podcast. This guy's a star. He's going to go a long way.
I'm blushing. Thank you very much, Stevie.
Not only do you, well, Amrit, not only do you look like Pep, but there's an argument that you might talk like him with the same kind of enthusiasm as well, my man. So thank you so much for joining.
I might start clawing my head as well, Stevie.
Well, if you keep playing like last night, mate, you never know. But no, thank you, mate. As I said, Amrit joins us. It was his first podcast tonight. It's always difficult because when you have to bring negativity, but to bring that wee bit of positivity, I liked it, like the energy, Amrit. So you'll be back on again in the coming weeks and in the future. So as I said, mate, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Folks, as for just to answer just a quick question before we go, there is no word on Scottish coaches and who's coming in. So just to answer that question, don't know anything about it. I'm going to answer this one as well, because this who scouted Amrit. Amrit, right? I'm going to let him answer this. Amrit runs an ice cream parlor, right? And he does amazing TikToks and everything else. You can figure it out yourself about how Stevie's feed managed to have ice cream on it or whatever. Bearing in mind, you know, I do enjoy the odd delight. Amrit, you can tell us a wee bit about that actually, because you do amazing stuff, don't you, on socials?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I do. It's a great passion of mine. I'm blessed enough to have a job that I love, so I make ice cream, do it all myself, and put it in our stores, and it's a labour of love. So yeah, I really, really enjoy it. So thanks for that plug, Stevie.
Absolutely, don't mind, mate. We did not meet at the barbers, you cheeky buggers. That's one thing for sure. But obviously, that helps them get on the podcast because we are a bald fraternity here on Four Lads. So, everybody, thank you for watching. Loved all the comments. Loved all the interaction. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to everybody. If you haven't, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We're well over 11,500 now. It's absolutely brilliant support. Fast heading towards 12,000 subs. We found out today we'll be playing the Gallant Pioneer Pub on Friday, the 14th of November. Excuse me. I'll be taking down a crew. I didn't get emotional there. I just thought I was going to do a wee hiccup and I never. What was I saying? Yes, Gallant Pioneer Blackpool on the 14th of November on the Friday night. We cannot wait to do that. There'll be a squad of us going down there. And we are really looking forward to that. To be asked to do these kind of things as a podcast is absolutely sensational, and we really love it. The pod continues to grow with all your support, all the positive comments. We absolutely love. So yeah, we really, really appreciate that. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde View, Fire, Evacuation, and Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, CSD Air Conditioning, our sponsors. We really, really appreciate that. And our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. On behalf of Davie, Amrit, and myself, have a wonderful weekend. Have a great Friday night. We will be back from Ibrox Stadium on Sunday. We hope you enjoy us for what we pray will be a positive Rangers result. Have a good weekend, folk. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde View Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.